In this video, we'll have a look at what's new in Squirrel365 in version 1.21, which is coming soon. We'll have a look at the AI query builder, so previously Discover. We're going to be formally releasing and announcing this in greater detail later on this month, but we'll have a quick look at the enhancements and changes that will happen to Discover in preparation for it becoming generally available. We'll have a quick look at some of the Mapbox enhancements and talk about some of the new enhancements that are coming in the future releases as well. We'll also have a look at some of the miscellaneous updates regarding Infoburst database, multi-row writeback, dynamic scroll position within canvas containers, the moving of the window size add-on to becoming a native component control, and some changes to the duplicate command as well. And at the end, we'll jump into what is our flagship feature in this version of Squirrel, which is the new custom components features. So let's have a look then at some of the demos. First up, we'll have a look at the Discover query builder, which is previously the Discover capability. So I've opened up my Squirrel application, and in here now you can see I've got my Squirrel application. I go into AI sales, which is my Discover project here, and I've got the ability now. So with Discover, you have the ability to drag and drop and build queries. So if I go into debug and go to my query, I can drag on, let's look at product categories and units sold, go to results, and it's running that query for me against Infoburst. If I change that to the sum of units sold, it's bringing back information about the units sold and that sort of thing. So this is giving you a drag and drop capability to query your data, which is in the Infoburst XDC. The Discover AI, and sort of the AI query builder as it's called now, gives you the ability to ask natural language questions against that data set. So first of all, I need to create myself an AI access token. So if I go out of this to the start page here, in expand settings, and I've got AI credits, I can now in here create a token. So if I create a new token, I can give it a name, or I can use an existing token I've got here. So if I use that one, so I've copied that token key to my my clipboard, go back into AI sales, and if I now go to general, I can now paste in my token, verify it. That placeholder is now removed, so I can now ask questions against my data. So let's have a look. Which region has sold the most? West has sold the most, which is great. But I didn't mean that. I went to which region sold the most books. So I can hover over here, click on the copy, and copy my query into my clipboard and paste it in again. Or if I select the question box, press up, I can now navigate back through previous questions. Which region has sold the most books? So as I'm asking continuous questions, it is aware of the previous context of my question. If I want to start a new query, I need to press the new query button at the top, and that will then clear out my context and allow me to start a brand new question. But this is the AI capability now baked into AI Query Builder. So moving on, let's look at the Mapbox enhancements. This is the first step of a suite of changes we're making to the Mapbox component. This first change is coming into build 1.21. The future ones we'll talk about later on are coming into future releases. So if I go back into my Squirrel application, here we go, and open up my Mapbox demo, I've got a Mapbox control on here, and I've got some lat and longs for different locations around the UK. So if I go into my location data, select my lat long pin locations, and let's bind all these information, and it's created multiple pins, but actually there's multiple clusters of pins. If I go into debug, for example, and we zoom in on London, you can see there's actually a number of pins dotted around all over the place. So pins and the ability to display these pins has been in the Mapbox for a while now. What we've added the ability now is to turn on heat mapping as well. So if I select heat map, it's automatically looked at the pins I've created and then created that heat map magically for us as well. So if I now go into debug and zoom in on London, you can see the heat mapping is spreading out and merging out, and so you can see the density of those pins in that location as well. So the heat mapping capability is this first enhancement that's coming into the next release of Squirrel. Let's go back to the presentation then, and let's tell you what's next. So the next demo we're going to look at is the multi-row writeback in Infobus into the database. It's not a very exciting demo, but we'll walk and talk you through it. So previously we had the database writeback connector that asks you to select your writeback statement from the database connection, and then it exposed a number of bindable properties for each of the parameters that the SQL statement had configured. So the year, the product, the target, and the manager, but you could only insert one row at a time. We've got the multi-database writeback connector now, which gives you the ability to connect to Infobus as we did before. I've selected my insert statement, but now instead of having multiple fields to bind to, I can now bind to a block of data instead. But the block needs to be configured in this very particular way. So this particular parameter table before, as we saw, it had year, product, target, and manager. We need to be able to have columns in the table for that. So I did it year, product. I've forgotten the 4 columns across there. But if you click on the copy parameter header row, it's created that in there for me now. So if I go into here and paste it, it's provided that for me. And this is what we'll use to marry up the values you enter versus the name of the parameters. So if we go 2025, test, 123, manager, Rich, and then get rid of you, 2025, test 2, 456, manager Mel. And what we can do now is we can select that whole block of table, including the column headers, because this is, I said, this is what marries up the prompt, the parameter name with the parameter value. And then the response table will tell me, it'll go through and insert those behind the scenes one by one into the database table for you, but it'll also send back a response that will tell you whether the insertion was successful or not. So if I click on that, and then I can bind to a block of data here, and that will then tell me how many rows it inserted, whether there are any successes and failures and those sorts of things. I'm not going to run it through now because it's not a very exciting demo, but that's the premise now. So rather than binding to individual columns as we had to do before, so we'd have to have had things like this and then work with like a data mover to move it around and trigger an insert and work up some really complicated logic within Squirrel to handle inserting multiple rows. We now just bind to a block of data instead, and then sends that up, and behind the scenes it handles that multi insertion for you automatically. The next demo we're going to look at is the dynamic scroll position on containers. So if I go back into Squirrel and open up my demo, I've got a container here with lots of text labels in it with a vertical scroll bar. So if I go into debug, you can see I can use the scroll bar and it will go through the various different sections. Imagine this almost like page sections that you can jump into as well. But what I've done is, if I look here, I have collected the Y position of each of the labels. So section 1, Y position is 9, section 2 is 94, 257, and so on. And on the container, as long as you've got scroll bars enabled, you now have the ability to programmatically control how to jump to certain X and Y positions in there. So if I click on this button here, for example, section 1, it'll insert the Y position of 9 into there, and it will jump to 9, 94, and so on. So if I go into debug, you can see it in action. So if I click on section 1, it's in view. Go to section 2, it's automatically scrolled down to section 2. If I go to section 5, it's automatically scrolling me down. So using these database this spreadsheet insertion, and binding it to the scroll Y position, I can now dynamically control the X and Y position of the viewport in that container. So the next couple of demos are quite quick. We'll jump into those and look at those briefly, and then we'll jump into the custom components. So if I go back into Squirrel now and talk about the window size feature. Previously, the window size capability was an add-on. So if you click on the add-on icon, go to the add-ons marketplace, and then let's look for size. Here, I've already got this, but you'd click on that button and it'll download and give you that add-on into your Squirrel project. I've already got it. The window size is a function. So click on function, add a function, expand add-ons, and at the bottom in window size, it looked at the size, the width and height of your browser window, the viewport of your browser window, and it injected that into the spreadsheet. And then you could use that to resize and reposition things to make them fit into the right place on your browser window. So this was an add-on, and was used quite extensively. So we've looked at bringing that into the product as a native capability there as well. So how we do that now is, if you select the main canvas, so if I go to the component tree, click it anywhere in the void, you've got your main canvas selected now as well. And in here now I've got the checkbox to insert browser size into spreadsheet. Check that, and now you've got your browser width, the browser height. Exactly the same capability, but there's no need now to have that as an add-on. It's now baked in as a native feature and capability of your Squirrel project. The other quick demo is the duplicate command. So let's add a text label on here. Previously, if you wanted to have another text label, you'd have to right click, copy, and then paste it in there. So, and then you get your second one. What we've done now is we've added the duplicate capability. So you've got right click, duplicate, and you can put the an additional label in there, or you can also do it on the container, the canvas as well, and then duplicate. And then you've now got multiple controls and labels in there as well. And the Control D or Command D on Mac also duplicates as well. So you can now configure your component and then duplicate it to create multiple instances and iterations of that connector as well. So that is the end of the quick demos, and let's jump now into the kind of the main bulk of this webinar, or this video, is looking at the new feature, which is the custom components capability we've added into Squirrel. So let's go into Squirrel and have a look at custom components then. So I'm in my Squirrel application and start a brand new project. The concept of custom components is the ability to take multiple different components that you've got on your canvas and then turn them into a reusable component or widget that you can then use across multiple different projects. I'll give you an example. Let's say I've got a slider and I configured it with a title above it, and then I want to have a big number at the end of it to say what the value is. Let's say the value is 44. Let's wire that up just so we can see what it looks like. Connect this up to 44 as well. Change that styling to be main title, make it bigger maybe. There we go. So that's then going to be the title of the slider. Let's set that as caps title. There we go. So that's now the title. And I want to use this, for example, across multiple my projects. Previously, what I have to do is I have to select that and then duplicate it, as we've got now, which is the duplicate command, and reuse that in multiple places. But what if I wanted to change the text label so that I'd have to then go, like say, change it from the caps title to subtitle, so it's not using the init cap and those sorts of things. I'd have to go through and apply that to every single location where that is found. With custom components, what I can do is I can select all these controls here. And then I've got a couple of different ways of creating the custom component. I can click on the new purple create component icon now in the top right corner of the property panel. I can right click over here and say create custom component, or I can right click on the canvas and create custom component. So if I do that, it'll pop up and say, what is the name? So let's give it a name. So slider. Continue. And then I'll save the custom component and take me into the edit mode. You can tell you're in the edit mode because you've got the purple bar across the top. I can also change the name of it there from slider to something else if I wanted to as well. But in here now, I've got just the components that I created my custom component with. To connect up the properties to the custom component, we create what's called a link property. This is basically creating a link between the custom component and the spreadsheet when we configure that later on. So what I want to do is I want to pass in a title. So let's create a property for title. I want to pass in the value. So let's pass in the value. And let's specify the min and max of the slider. So min and max. Perfect. So I've got these link properties configured, and I need to connect those up to the actual component. So if I select the title here, and I want to bind it. It's a different icon now. You can see it's got the little purple outline. And rather than selecting a spreadsheet range, I can now select which one of my properties do I want to connect it to. I want to connect that one to my title. Let's let my slider connect the value up to the value. Same with my big number at the end. Let's connect that up to the value. And then for the min and max, let's configure those to min. and max. That's it. Press update. It's now going to update and save my custom component and take me back into my project here. And as you can see on the left hand side now, rather than having my multiple components, I've got one now called slider, which is the custom component I've created. If I select it, you can tell it's a custom component because the highlight is purple, the outline is purple, whereas a normal slider, the highlight is blue and the outline is blue. So you can tell custom components by that purple outline as well. And the property panel is exposing the linked properties that we created in the previous step. So let's give it a title, value, min, max. Let's have a look. So title of sales, value 123, min of 0, max of 1,000, say. So let's connect that up. So I go to title, sales, and it's updated the property there. As you can see, value, it's now moved my slider to 123 and set 123 in my label there, min 0, max of 1,000, and that's now gone through and configured that for me. Let me just save this now. So save custom component test. Perfect. I can also now go into a brand new project. Left hand side now got a new section here on our left menu for custom components, and it's a list of all the components that we've created. So if I select my slider, place it on, I can now use that, and now I can use this now across multiple different projects. I can also have multiple instances in the same project, but the power comes when there are multiple instances across multiple different projects, and you can start creating these reusable assets that you can use. Also in the start page here, if we go into the settings, so the asset library, we've now got a component section. If we go into here, we can see this is the custom component I just created called slider. If I click on the radial button, I can now go into edit, and this will take me into the edit version of this as well. And let's add a new, well, let's not check, let's just change the color here. Let's change the big number on the right hand side from being gray. Let's make it that red color. There we go. So nice and red color. Update that. You can see my image is updated. So what would happen now if I open up that project I just saved, my custom component test? My custom component test was made without the red values. Let's open it and have a look. As you can see here, the number is still black, but it has identified that there's been an update to my custom component. So I can choose to not update it, remind me later, and I can come into here, but it does tell you that these components need updating. There's a little dot next to it. So there's a number of different affordances and and indicators to let you know there are some changes. So if I come out, let's go back into it again. It pops up. If I press update component now, it will go and get the latest version of that that custom component and update my project with that, and it's immediately come through and inherited that red capability as well. So the power of these custom components really comes to the fore when you create multiple different components and then bind them all together. So let's look at this demo here that Mel's created, a more realistic real life example. So this is a pricing page for, say, a website or for a SaaS product, and these are created as reusable components here. Let's go into card plan and have a look. So I can right click, edit custom component, and it's taken me in. You can see here I've got all my components configured, and my properties are like price, color, price plan, price summary, and all the bullet points. They're all configured in there for us, and we can now reuse that. So I go back to here, and we see we've used it here in 3 separate locations, which is great. We've only got 3 components over here on our object browser, our component tree, sorry. So it makes our component tree a bit less cluttered as well. But so if you also go and look into the actual custom component, this is made up of 24 individual components. So if I had done it the previous way, which is by creating it and then copying and pasting it, there would have been 24, 48, 72 components on my canvas, and 72 components in my component tree. It gets a little bit more cluttered, a bit more difficult to manage. Now we've just got those 3 in there as well, and as you can see, they're very similar in their aesthetics, but they're also got their own differences, different values, different contents, different colors, and that is all the power of passing in these linked properties and these linked bindings as well. So this feature of custom components is coming in 1.21. We want people to use it. It's available in all the product SKUs, so it's available for creator and builder and Infobird Squirrel customers. We want people to use it, and then we'll look to evolve and enhance this over time based on customer feedback. So we'll provide some more information on how you can do everything and all the different various options in the Learn article, but we encourage everyone to have a play, raise questions or ask for enhancement requests in the community, because we're actively looking to add more capability and evolve this custom component capability going forward. So let's quickly go back to the presentation then. Here we go. So over the past few releases, we've been showing up this slide, which is showing the now, next, and future, almost like a living roadmap of what we're working on at the moment behind the scenes in Squirrel. So the now column is now what we are now actively working on for the next future releases of Squirrel. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in the next release. It means we're actively working on it right now. So custom and vanity domains, we talked about it in the last release, and we'll talk about it here, is the ability at the moment when you publish a project to the Squirrel Cloud, the URL you provide to people is cloud.squirrel365 / and it gives you the unique ID for your project. Custom domains gives you the ability to, rather than using cloud.squirrel365, you can have your own domain. So you could have like app.mycompany.com, for example. So you can provide your own custom domain in there. That is probably almost likely going to be in the next release, so release 1.22 of Squirrel. And vanity domains is an enhancement on top of that, which will come a bit later after, which gives you the ability to provide it a much more user-friendly name, rather than that 32-bit GUID for the URL for the project that you created. You can give it a nice user-friendly name like sales 2026 dashboard, for example, and that will then provide you with that vanity domain to give you that nice look of the URL. So I mentioned it earlier with Mapbox enhancements. The first enhancement we've done was with the heat mapping. We've got a number of other enhancements coming in 1.22. The ability to turn on live traffic notifications, so you can see the red lines and amber lines if there's traffic in your the roads in the map that you're looking at. The ability to change the icons, so that we've got the pin at the moment. The ability to change it from a pin to other icons and things like that. We've also added the ability, almost like a bubble chart over it. So not, rather than just having a heat map which automatically heats and changes the colors based on the pin density, you can now also have like a bubble chart on there. So it'll then scale and grow the size based on a value that goes into there. We're working on a make.com connector, which is very similar to our Zapier connector. So make.com is a competitor of Zapier. So the ability to take Squirrel output and trigger things within Squirrel to cause other events happening down the line using the make.com capability. And then we're also working on our the actual installer and updater that Squirrel ships with at the moment. At the moment, every time we release an update, the browser version of Squirrel updates automatically. So next time you go to the browser version, you're always on the latest version. But the desktop client, you have to physically go to a download location, download it, run the installer, and then install it and get the update coming through. We're working on an improved experience with that, so that the updates are happening more seamlessly behind the scenes. So you don't have to keep on downloading and installing it. It'll prompt you and then it'll update. And then all we need to do is next time we relaunch Squirrel, it'll be relaunched with the latest version. So these are the ones we're actively working on at the moment. Another one we're actively looking at and playing with at the moment is looking at an AI capability within Squirrel, to have a Squirrel AI agent to help you work and create visualizations and capabilities within Squirrel without having to drag and drop everything yourself. So these are things we're working on at the moment. Again, when we do the next release, we'll keep on updating this. But any questions or any ideas or suggestions, enhancements for Squirrel, by all means, please put those in the community. That's our main point of call that we go to when we're looking at feature requests and enhancements. We look at the community website. So any ideas or any questions, please feel free to update them on there for us as well. And that's it. Any questions, please comment on this video and we'll come back to you as soon as we can do. Thank you.